Welcome to Real Estate in Real Time. I'm your host, Woody Zimmerman, here with Mark Skibowski of Remax Lakes. Welcome to the show.
Here we are.
And, here we are, and it's August.
The dog days of August are upon us.
And it just, seems like it was like February, March, we just started talking about all this COVID stuff coming over to the United States. We've had one of the weirdest years I've ever experienced. Probably everybody has experienced.
Personal experience. I will go with that.
Right. And here we are, and I just, I woke up and it's like, it's August. I can't believe we were entering into like the last, moving towards the, fall and the end of the year. It's like,
it's coming.
Wow. It's crazy. So, but the market has still been hot.
It has. As you mentioned, it's been a unique year. I look back and prepping for today, and at the start of January, it was, what do we expect? We expect the market to remain strong, but we'll probably peter out by the end of the year. I mean, that was the predictions. And predictions, everybody's got one. Well, it was wrong.
Yeah.
Who knew what COVID was going to do? Who knew that we were going to have the local market as hot as it was, and the national market's following along with that. So I thought we could talk a little bit about what's going on the big stage, because everybody listens to national news and things like that. So they hear, oh, it's so this, it's so that. Thought we'd pull in a little bit of that, data. So forbearance, and remember when COVID started, we were concerned about people having the ability to pay their mortgages.
Sure.
So there was a big spike in lenders working with people, giving them some kind of forbearance, whether it was pushing payments out, whether it was reducing their payments, anything. If somebody asked, they were allowing people to pay their payments late or just tacking it on or paying no payment at all. Because remember when COVID started, when this whole thing happened, we had no idea. When the country shut down, essentially, people weren't working, no income, any of that stuff. So rather than see a rise in foreclosures, the lenders started working with people on forbearance. Well, the good news is that rate has started to decline. The number of loans that are in forbearance have started coming down. And I forget the exact number, but I know we talked in the 10, 11, 12% range where they had went to lenders had mortgages in forbearance. It's back down to about 5.5%.
Okay.
So that's that says good things about the economy and the housing market in general.
That people are going back to work and they're making their mortgage payments.
Right, they're making their mortgage payments. So forbearance, it's an interesting term. Most of us hopefully will never have to deal with it.
Yeah, right.
But the good news is lenders, like every other industry, adapted to what was going on with COVID and allowed folks to pay their payments late or do whatever.
Do you think we learned something from the crash in 08, 09?
I really do. The governmental response, the lender response, everything was different. In 08, 09, and I'm not going to say it was happening joyfully, but I tell you, the lenders were not shy about foreclosing on people. When they couldn't make their payments, they just started the process, which led to, a glut of foreclosed homes on the market. Ultimately drove prices down.
I was going to say, that's because we had all this inventory, so then prices were like lower, and I know the value of my own personal property went down considerably.
Right, and I'm not trying to characterize to where banks are going, we get to take these loans back, but I don't think there was any consideration for the folks that they were taking the properties from. Now, if you don't pay your payments, you've signed a contract, I get it. The bank has every right to foreclose and take that property back. But I think they realized it wasn't a good business decision for them at that point.
They want to be in the banking business, not the real estate business.
Not in the real estate business. So it definitely changed how they adapted and how they worked with this crisis. So, along with that, we've seen interest rates drop dramatically. So, people are starting to go back to work. Things are starting to move along. The stock market's starting to come back up, and interest rates are still hovering around 3%.
Which is
for
amazing.
a 30-year fixed loan.
That's amazing.
About 3%. Now, again, very good credit. You know what I mean? If you're a 600 credit score, it's unlikely you're going to see a 3%, interest rate on a mortgage.
Okay.
So obviously there's a lot of things that go into receiving that. And again, that's where, part of what we're doing on the show is trying to educate folks. Just because you hear it's 3% rate doesn't mean that everybody gets that rate.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of factors that go into your credit rate, just like, home insurance, car insurance. Your credit score impacts the rates that you pay on those things. And a lot of people don't understand that or didn't know it. So, hopefully we're doing a public service here by getting that information out.
Yeah.
Your credit score matters. It isn't just a number. Your credit score matters. And if you've got good credit and you're interested in buying a home, now is a great time to buy with interest rates. On the flip side of that, the inventory, the limited amount of inventory is going to mean you're probably going to pay more than what you would probably like to pay in order to buy that home.
Because we're still in a seller's market.
Absolutely still a seller's market. We use that term. What does that mean? It means there's more buyers than there are sellers, right? I mean, it's common sense, but want to explain it. There are more buyers out there looking at property, interested in buying, than there are homes available for sale.
Okay.
So ultimately, that econ thing, supply, demand, increased demand, limited supply, price goes up.
Yeah, prices go up. All right, we're going to talk more about that and the current conditions going on. You're listening to Real Estate in Real Time. Welcome back. You're listening to Real Estate in Real Time, and we're talking about how it's a seller's market and the current conditions that are going on a national level.
Yeah.
And so how's that affecting the local level?
So, we did our mid-year review, and we were up, in Warsaw and down in the county. And the national level, it's very similar to that. And I pulled this stat, and I hate to quote stats because we're on the radio and people can't see a chart, right?
Right.
I can't put my chart up.
Right.
But the seasonally adjusted rate is 4.72 million in June. So the overall sales year over year is down 11.3% from a year ago.
Okay.
There were 5.32 million in June of 2019. So 4.72 million in 20, 5.32 million in 19. So
Okay.
down 11% year over year.
Okay.
Now what we're seeing though is, we take out February, take out March, when all of this stuff started happening, when the COVID stuff started happening, we're seeing increases month over month to where maybe, just maybe by the end of the year, we'll see, similar to 19
So
numbers.
we'll catch up to, you think we might catch up to that?
I think we
number.
may.
Okay.
I mean, again, when we did our mid-year review, talking through the end of June, the pendings in the month of June that had not closed in July yet, and I won't have that data yet, but as soon as we get that, I think it's going to catch up. I think we're well on our way to catching up to being similar to 2019 locally. And I think that's what they're saying nationally is we're seeing month-to-month gains, year over year. I think we'll get there. I do. I think if not, it'll be awful close. And as you told me, a wise radio guy told me one time, you can't win the World Series every year.
Right.
And in 18, if you went back and listened to the shows, we did really well.
Oh, man.
In 19,
Wow.
It was like even better than 18.
Yeah.
And 20 started, and we were like, okay, maybe.
Yeah.
It can't be. Well, who knows? If we hit equal, given that we lost 2 months out of the year, I think it's still been a very good year in real estate.
Well, and lost 2 months, but I mean, look how much this whole industry has changed.
Yeah.
On just how everything. I mean, between the Zoom meetings and virtual tours and the closing when you're doing the paperwork, you don't even have like the person across from you in the same room. It's
Right.
like they might be like on an iPad, telling you what this form is, and then you
Right.
sign it. I mean, it's just everything has changed.
The way that we conduct business has changed, and I know we beat that to death over and over. Hey, yeah, we all have to wear masks now. It's the governor's order, which, hey, if it protects folks, hallelujah.
Right.
Let's try to slow this thing down to where
Right.
we can come out of it. I'm with that. But just showings for buyers. We're seeing requests for virtual showings. They want us to go do a walkthrough. They don't want to walk into the house. good for them. But I personally, again, I'm of the generation, I want to see it, feel it, touch it before I buy it.
Yeah.
You know, but there are those that are okay with a virtual tour.
Right.
And they'll buy it. And we're seeing those trends nationally. I mean, you know, we're getting pounded out of the industry. And I mentioned, you know, I sign up for every newsletter known to man as it relates to real estate. You know, I get 100 emails and every morning that pop in about stuff, about real estate. But we're seeing it throughout the industry as people are adapting and adjusting. So we as an industry had to adapt and adjust, and buyers have to adapt and adjust, and sellers are adapting and adjusting to this new current norm. I don't know that it's going to be the long-term norm, but it's currently how we need to operate. So yeah, you mentioned the title companies. They are still following through with, you know, remote style closings to where the closer's in one room looking at your file while you're on an iPad signing the documents. It's just weird, you know, because that ultimately was the culmination of the transaction. You know, and this is a business, absolutely. It's a financial, you know, I'm doing it because I'm making a living at it. I'm doing it because I love it. But the closing is supposed to be the pinnacle of all of these things.
Yeah.
You know, when you walk out of that room and it's a first-time home buyer who's buying their first house, it's amazing because they're pretty happy. Normally.
Yeah, right, yeah.
We've had them where they're not happy. But generally, it's a celebratory day.
It's a life-changing experience.
To where we're getting there. And you feel great that you've had the ability to help somebody get to that point. We can't experience any of that now because everybody's in separate rooms. So it's changing that dynamic, you know, and I'm not getting all soft and emotional and stuff, but it is an emotional transaction for a lot of people. You know, it's the single largest investment many people will ever make in their life.
Yeah.
So it's a pleasure and an honor to be part of that, to help them get there. You know, and again, for a seller, hey, they're moving on with their life. Yeah. They'd like to get it sold. So it works that way as well. So, you know, overall, to sum it all up, I think the real estate market is generally strong. There are probably pockets of non-strength, you know, throughout the country. But in general, we have recovered and we're moving forward. What's driven that? Part of it is interest rates. Part of it was that pent-up demand, you know, from being cooped up for 2 months in a house that maybe didn't fit you. The challenge for us as an industry are coming up with inventory so that we can meet the supply or the demand that buyers have got out there.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you drive down the road, you see a lot of houses that are going up right now.
Yeah.
So you know that's a good thing, and hopefully soon all this is going to be over because you know looks like they've got a vaccination that could possibly be ready by the first of the year. So
it's in the works.
All right, we got to wrap things up. Hey, Mark, your email real fast.
Sure, it's Mark Skibowski at remax.net. If anybody's got any questions, reach out.
All right, very good. Thanks for listening. You've been listening to Real Estate in Real Time. Have yourself a wonderful weekend.